Well, for weeks now, we've heard of the looming fiscal cliff and what it can mean for our taxes and our military. Essentially, the cliff is a mix of expiring budget and tax laws plus spending cuts that will go into effect if Congress fails to act. And yes, economists agree that going over this proverbial fiscal cliff could very much launch the U.S. into a congressional mandated recession. We know that Americans are worried about their own finances, but here's a story of how the threat of a fiscal cliff is already affecting the country in unexpected ways. Deep budget cuts across the country have forced the hand of Oregon County jails, which had to release 30 inmates because it couldn't afford to board them. And here's the kicker. According to the Associated Press, less than an hour after one of these low-level offenders walked out, authorities say he was demanding a bank teller to hand over money. He stuck up the bank. But the story doesn't end there because the steady reduction of federal subsidies, because of this federal reduction, there are fewer jail beds, sheriff patrols, parole officers, and specialized investigators. And prosecutors are now tossing out more than a quarter of the cases that cross their desks simply because there aren't enough people to deal with them. And it's not only Oregon dealing with this problem. The mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, said that the fiscal cliff could have a profound and draconian consequence on her city, since the automatic cuts would threaten law enforcement patrols and training. California is also cutting a budget and lowering prison populations. So it looks like the fiscal cliff will inevitably have a bigger impact on the U.S. than just taxes alone. And for that inmate turned bank robber in Oregon, he remains in custody. He has not been indicted on the most recent arrest. He has not been asked to enter a plea, and his next court date has not been scheduled. Meaning that, in Oregon anyway, just because you do the crime doesn't mean you'll pay the time. That is, of course, until Congress settles down and starts taking this fiscal cliff seriously.